All right, oatmeal time. So let's add in first our main ingredient, oatmeal. In Chinese, this is a Chinese medicine we call oatmeal. Well, there's 大麦 and there's 小麦. Mai is oatmeal and 大 and 小 just means big or small. And I'll fill up half the jar. And one of the plants, one of the herbal medicines that you will find here at Mountain Rose is Avena sativa, or oats, milky oats. We've got the milky oat tops, and then there's oat straw, or the non-milky oat tops. It looks more like grass part of oats. And I'm going ahead and rushing to the next part, adding in our nuts and seeds. But the oats themselves, the oatmeal, comes from the same plant, Avena sativa. A little bit more cashews, and let's add in some walnuts and almonds. So whatever nuts or seeds you like to add in, you can add into your oatmeal blend, so that when it is breakfast time, it is very easy for you to add in 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of oatmeal blend into your bowl. Add hot water, let sit, boom, got breakfast. Add in some coconut, and not just any breakfast. This is not Honey Nut Cheerios. This is something which is nutritious with some handy herbal powders for steady energy that will nourish you and your body and your mind and your whole being in a beautiful way to sustain a loving relationship with, first and foremost, yourself, so that you can sustain a loving relationship to all those who you may come into contact with in direct and indirect ways throughout your day. So that was some cacao nibs. Now I'm adding in some black sesame. One of my favorite breakfasts growing up was black sesame powder paste, which is really nutritious and delicious, however turns your teeth a little bit black in the crevices. Now adding in some chia. So we made chia mix before, so you can also mix your oatmeal mix with your chia mix in your bowl. But I usually like to just keep things simple and have everything in one jar. So keeping them separate, oatmeal mix for fuller meals when I need a little bit more energy or I'm feeling a bit more hunger, and then the chia blend for when I'm feeling less hunger or doing a small fast, or if I'm doing something which requires me to have a mostly empty belly, such as going surfing in the morning time. Let's add some berries. Again, for a little bit more energy, you can use something like dates or raisins for something which is nourishing, adding a little bit of sweetness and pretty satisfying. We've got some goji berries. You can also do unsweetened cranberries, dried unsweetened blueberries, keeping our sugar content low. We're adding a little bit of colorful beauty, delicious fabulousness. And then for this one, let's do the peas powder again. And it looks like it'll sift down a little bit, and when it does, I'll probably add a little bit more oatmeal in. So again, the peas powder, we have rose, ashwagandha, maca, ginger, and cinnamon. So I can also add in some cacao and give it a little bit of that chocolate flavor. And you can also add in some vanilla powder or protein powder. Protein powder for a little bit more fullness. You feel a little bit more full and a little bit more, even more nutritional value. Okay. Nice. A little bit more oatmeal. Smells good. So usually when making this beforehand, I make about 3 2-liter jars of the oatmeal because we go through this one pretty quickly, my husband and I. For the chia, I make a little bit less because usually just adding in about 1 tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of chia per smaller serving. And for the oatmeal blend, usually about 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup per breakfast blend serving. And we're looking like pretty good distribution between nuts and seeds and fruits and powders and oatmeal. Everything looks pretty evenly distributed. If you leave it there for a while, the powders will settle to the bottom. Powders keep pretty well over time. However, you don't want to keep it for too long, making sure that you store your oatmeal and your chia mix in a dry, cool environment, and applying a label so that you remember what you have inside of your many jars in your kitchen. Hopefully many jars, the more jars the merrier. So applying your labels to help you remember and easily access. And when you eat this, adding in however much into your bowl, adding in hot water, mixing, let sit, perhaps sitting covered, and that'll help the oatmeal to become nice and delicious and ready for you to consume. You can add fruit on top, you can add your nut milk of preference and your sweetener of preference, and lo and behold, a fabulous nutritional breakfast. All right.